Guys, we're live. Those of you who watch the podcast will know we had one or two technical difficulties. So before I get properly into it, we're just going to check that this is actually going out live, and it appears that it is. If you're in the chat, I can see there's a few people in the chat already. Shout out to David, to Harley, to Steve, to Lee, to Oliver, Tetley, Harley, Mikey, Leon. I hope everyone's doing well. If you're in the chat, let us know how we're coming through. Hopefully we are coming through loud and clear. And I can see Paul from the podcast has joined us live. Paul, how you doing?
Yeah, pretty good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, very good, very good. Thanks for taking the time to join tonight. We didn't have you on the podcast this week, Paul, so you got a bit of gloating to do, haven't you?
Yeah, shall I get it out of the way now?
I think so, because I think by the time the next podcast comes around, no one will really care about Gavin Eggington anymore.
Yeah, it's probably true. Well, I think I'd like to begin with a bit of a few quotes. Irish Tom said, the method is Paul having a brain seizure, which was his response to me picking Eggington.
Yes, he did say that.
Jet at a minute 25. It's almost as bad as Glowacki picked by Sherry. Oh my God, with utter disdain. And then yourself. I thought I'd finish with yourself. At a minute, at 1 hour 25. No, Jet. Let's give him some rope here. I'm looking forward to absolutely tearing into him next week. And so I really don't. I don't know if I really need to say any more than that.
Oh, mate, it sums it up. It sums it up. To be honest, I stand by. I thought it was going to be a very one-sided fight. This, I gave Eggington literally no chance. So huge credit to you. I couldn't have seen it coming in a million years. Did you see the fight developing in the way it did?
No, I thought his size might be a problem, and I thought Frankie's conditioning might be a problem, but no, I didn't see it developing the way it did. I also thought it was going to be a bit of a snooze fest. Really surprised as well, but yeah, I just think he's improving. I think Eggington's getting a bit better. He's no world beater by any means, but I thought he showed some improvements in this fight. But no, to answer your question, no, I'd be lying if I said I thought it was going to go the way it did.
Yeah, who'd have thought a fight like that, Eggington versus Gavin, would turn into be an absolute barnstormer?
I know.
It's crazy. Paul, the chat likes you. Harley says Paul is on fire. Boxing Gossip's terrified. Tetley says, go on, Paul. Mikey says Paul has started with a bang.
Yeah.
Mikey says ultimate bragging from Paul, and Mikey said Paul's getting his own back from BG's Crawford Pistol back bragging. So, fair play to you, mate.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Very good pick, and a pick that I couldn't have made. So, fair play to you.
I actually had a bit of cash on it as well. So
did you? Bloody hell! Yeah. Oh, nice one. Did you have? Was it just on Eggington to win?
Yeah, just for the win. Yeah. So
nice one. Double bonus then. Yeah.
I'm not going to pay off the mortgage, but
yeah,
win a few quid, So.
We won't stay on Gavin Eggington for long because I got the wrong pick, so we'll brush it under the table. But how far do you think Eggington can go after this?
Well, I don't know. I don't see him as world level. Not at all. It's hard to say. He is improving, and I mean, if you look back over the years, there's fighters that if you look at them in their first few fights, you'd never think they were going to do well, and some of them did. So it's hard to say, but he's definitely improved.
Yeah, he's still a very young guy as well, isn't he? I guess there's some upside for him potentially in the future. But it's interesting stuff. So, Paul, I guess the news today is that looks like Anthony Joshua versus Eric Molina is about to be made. The fight has been confirmed on BoxRec.
Yeah.
And Molina's tweeted that he's coming over for an announcement. A lot of the newspapers, media outlets are reporting that it's a done deal. I mean, obviously, in boxing, nothing's ever a certainty. So, you know, it's not announced and it's not confirmed till it's properly done. But it looks very much like we're heading in the direction of Joshua versus Molina. So what's your take on that one, mate?
Yeah, well, I noticed it was confirmed on BoxRec and that, but obviously no announcement from either Mr. H or Anthony himself. I don't know. Like, I wish I'd have stuck to my original thought, which was there was going to be either Molina or Johan de Par, and then I started getting. I will admit I got kind of caught up in the Klitschko hype a bit. I don't think it's an awful fight. A lot of people, and I do understand that Joshua's a world champion, and so therefore that does kind of change things a little bit. But I'm not one of the people that kind of like think he should be just taking on all comers now, the most dangerous and sort of most experienced in the division. He's had 17 fights. You know, if you look at somebody like Deontay Wilder, his 32nd fight, the one before he fought Stavern, was Jason Gavin.
Yeah.
32nd fight. Look at the champions throughout history, especially at heavyweight. You know, Lewis, Tyson, they all had at least 24, 25 fights before they even fought for a world title. So, you know, he's still learning, and people tend to forget that. I don't think it's an awful fight. Molina, he hasn't got a hell of a lot to offer, but he can bring it when he wants to. He gave Wilder a run for his money. I thought he did quite well against Wilder for a while, especially in the earlier rounds. But of course, he has also been knocked out in the first round by Areola, and I think he really hasn't got a lot other than that big right hand, which, you know, he seems to just sort of search for that all the time. He doesn't seem to have a hell of a lot else to offer. But I'm not hugely disappointed. A little bit disappointed, I suppose, but not hugely. What about yourself, mate? What's your view on it?
It's interesting. I get a lot of predictions wrong, including Frankie Gavin. But for the last couple of weeks, I've been saying I do actually think it could be Eric Molina. And I think on the face of it, Eric Molina isn't a terrible fight. He obviously gave Wilder some good work. I was just re-watching some of the Wilder-Molina fight, and there were points in that fight he caused Wilder some real difficulties. Yeah. He's obviously coming off probably the career high point of his career high point to date. He knocked out Thomas Adamek. And I think because of that, it's not a terrible fight. I mean, for me, Molina is a bottom-end top 30 heavyweight. He's probably marginally better than Dominic Breazeale. Probably. I'd have him below a Dillian White. I'd probably have him below a Charles Martin, which will get me a lot of stick, but there we are. The problem I have, Paul, and there's two parts to the problem. Number one is that if you look at our IBF top 15, and I don't have it in front of me, but if we look at the fighters who are in it, Parker, Hay, Pulev, Jarrell Miller, Johan de Par, David Price, Andy Ruiz, I forget Bermain Stavern, I forget who else is in the list now. If we look at that IBF top 15, is Eric Molina the least threatening? Is he the least likely to cause an upset? And I actually think out of that IBF 15, he's either the least likely or one of the least likely. He'd certainly be one of the least threatening out of that list of 15. And the other thing, and this is a constant theme I have in boxing, is that, and I don't understand why people do this, is promoters raise expectations to X and then they offer Y. Now, I think a more sensible promotion would be if Eddie Hearn had come out and say, look, Joshua's had 17 fights. He's early on in his career. He's still working on a few things. We want to build him up for some big fights next year. You're going to see the Molinas and the Parts. And I think if that would have happened, you know, people's expectations would have been set realistically.
Yeah.
The World and his wife has been talking Joshua Klitschko for the last month.
Yeah.
And I think when expectations have been set to that extent, a guy like Eric Molina is a disappointment. And it's not just Eddie Hearn who does this. Peter Fury is terrible for doing this. We see Peter Fury doing this on the regular when it comes to Hughie Fury. But it's just, we've been, you know, on the podcast, we've been having conversations about who will win in a fight, Klitschko versus Joshua.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, I mean, let's say next week on the podcast, we go around the panel and we say, who's going to win, Molina or Joshua? You know, is anyone going to be picking Molina?
Very much doubt it. I completely agree with you on that. The raising of expectations is just it's becoming a real just like, it's just I can't get my head around it. Why they keep doing it? I know that's their job and stuff, but like you say, I think boxing fans would appreciate it a lot more if they just sort of like got a bit honest now and again. And as well as that, I mean, like, you know, that Adamek fight as well. I mean, he was Molina, now I'm talking about, was substantially the bigger man. And for me, Adamek was outboxing him for a lot of that fight. I don't know if did you see that fight?
I don't recall if I sat down and watched the fight or if I just saw highlights of it. But yeah, I think you're right that Adamek appeared to be the better boxer. Adamek was probably never big enough to be a heavyweight to begin with, and he got sparked, didn't he?
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't a sort of like Wilder Spilker knockout by any stretch of the imagination. But yeah, he couldn't get up in time. He didn't make the count. So yeah, I mean, it's a knockout. But for most of it, he was being outboxed. And I just think it's easy work for AJ. It is easy work for him. But again, it's like the Molina that turned up against Wilder. I don't know. He's like it was a different. And I know. I think the problem with Wilder is he's just so fundamentally flawed that anybody with an inkling of sort of like boxing skill is going to be able to have some success, because he's defensively open and pretty flawed fundamentally, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I just had another look at Molina Wilder, and when Molina's on the front foot, he's actually landing some good work to the body. You know, he's changing, going body head quite nicely. You know, he caught Wilder with some decent like hooks and wide punches. There were one or two occasions where Wilder was, I don't want to say he was rocked, because I think Wilder's a guy with very poor balance. But I think he was caught off balance and wobbled as a result of that by Molina.
Yeah, I saw it again today as well, and he definitely wobbled him. I know Wilder's got awful balance, and he's just as bad as ungainly as you can get in a heavyweight boxer. But like you say, he definitely did wobble him at one stage. Yeah, but again, I do think it's because Wilder is so sort of like open and stuff. I think Joshua is a bit more calculated in the way he approaches a fight. I think he's much less wild and a bit more calculated, and I just think he's gonna just dispatch Molina quite handily for me.
Yeah, I would. I mean, I'll obviously have to watch more tape before making a prediction. My early thoughts on the fight would be that Joshua will pick Molina off from range, and we'll see Molina just walking forward with a high guard, eating a Joshua jab and getting unloaded on. I think Molina's relatively durable. He seems to have good heart. He seems to get up. But I thought that was a very poor showing from Wilder. And Molina has some threat. I don't think he's a massive puncher, but I think he's got some threat if Molina is able to take Joshua late and Yeah, some of those punches Molina was throwing to the body, you know, I'm not sure Joshua would handle those well, but really, I don't think it should get to that extent. I think Joshua should keep him at range, use that sort of boxing pedigree, open him up, and I think that Joshua should stop him in under 6 rounds, just with that sort of long range game. But we, you know, as I say, I'll have to watch a bit more. I can see that our good friend, our mutual friend, Irish Tom, has joined in the chat. So, Tom, let me bring you in. How you doing, mate?
Not too bad, not too bad. Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear, loud and clear. Good sound quality tonight, actually, Tom. Have you changed your internet?
No, but it won't last long.
We better get you in before it messes up. So, me and Paul there, I don't know if you heard us all just having a bit of a back and forth about the initial thoughts on this fight. What's your take on it?
Well, I was looking at Molina's record. Like, what do you reckon is his best win?
Adamek.
Right. So, what age was Adamek? Like 40 or something?
What be something?
A light heavyweight who was about to retire. And then his other win that I saw, the one I noticed was what do you call him? DeVarrell Williams. Is it DeVarrell Williams?
Yes.
Yeah. And it was his last fight before he retired. And then everybody else is rubbish. And he beat he fought the two other names on his thing are Chris Arreola and Wilder, and he got knocked out in both.
Yes.
So, like, I don't know, BoxRec have him ranked 13th or 15th or something on yeah, 13th. Like he's no more than about 13th best heavyweight. Like, if you to look just at the IBF rankings there, he's probably in the bottom 3 of them 15. Is he?
Not sure. Yeah, I mean, for me, he's nowhere near the 13th best heavyweight. I wouldn't have him in the top 20. Yeah.
Yeah, like I think it's a terrible fight, to be honest with you.
Really?
Like, it's very far from a pay-per-view fight. My God. Whatever you can sell, like, I don't know, will he sell it? I'm not surprised it wasn't David.
I can 100% confirm it'll be pay-per-view.
I know.
Put on a big undercard, yeah.
Yeah, like, what did he put on that undercard? Did I see somewhere that it's Frank Buglioni and Hosea Burton is going on the undercard?
Yeah, it's a good fight, but it's not box office. Maybe, I guess maybe we could see Chisora White on the undercard now. Callie Boy's on the undercard in a world title fight. Good point from Steve.
Oh, God. Yeah, that's really making
my blood
race.
Not a fight, Steve, but it's, I guess it's a world title fight, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, no, I just think it's. I'm very. I know I was spewing a lot of bile there on the podcast, and it's the same kind of feeling. Like, I think I'm just. For the life of me, I don't know why I gave what you call him. Myself and Paul gave Eddie Hearn the benefit of the doubt, but you know, like, this is probably the worst fight apart from David Price we could have hoped for. And, like, remember you were saying that Takam and Duhopa are supposed to be fighting. That's not in BoxRec.
Is it not?
No, and that's not a confirmed fight. And apparently Duhopa on Twitter has been lobbying hard for this fight, yet we've never heard his name mentioned in there.
Yeah.
You know, his name has never been mentioned once. You know, we've had a lot of people's names mentioned that wouldn't take the fight. You know, and we had fellas mentioned that aren't even in the top 15. Like Jennings, he just threw that one in there from nowhere in the last while.
Yeah, he threw that in for nonsense, didn't he? Really?
Yeah, just shits and giggles. So, like, I think, like, I can't see any undercard that's going to make this. But then again, you know, Molina has a bit of power, and I'm suspect of Joshua's chin. So you never know, he might have a chance. I was looking there. The best price I think you can get on Joshua is 1-33. And that says a lot. Like, the top price 1-33, and the best price you can get on him is 10-1.
Yeah,
so 10-1 seems generous to me.
I wouldn't be lumping on at 10-1, to be honest. I I know it's heavyweight boxing and one punch can change everything, but I give Molina less than a 9% chance of winning the fight. I think he's got. I don't really see how he beats Joshua, to be honest.
Yeah, he can knock him out. The best price and
Joshua could be a complete fraud if Molina's able to stick it on him for 5 or 6 rounds. Joshua could just collapse in terms of stamina, but I doubt it. I think Joshua's a level above.
Yeah, same here. I think he's got that chance to land in a haymaker and knocking him out, but that's about it. I think there's no more hope of him winning a decision. If Tyson Fury went in there and he bet Joshua in every round and he boxed the head off him, it'll probably be a split decision.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So somebody like Molina has got no chance on hell. So you're basically saying he's got a knockout chance. It's probably around 12-1 is probably right. It might even be 15-1,
Yeah, I think about 15-16-1 is what I'd be pricing that as, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a letdown, man. I've been I woke up yesterday and I got out of bed and I went downstairs and I nearly fell over, and it turns out I've got vertigo. So I'm lying in bed all day and I'm just watching old fights.
All right, bloody hell.
So I've been watching Dejan's Latikanen today quite a bit, and I think Mikey Garcia is going to eat him up. I wonder what the odds are in that fight.
I think Garcia will be a big favourite, mate, because he's got that name recognition, doesn't he? Even though Lattikanen's sort of well rated amongst the hardcore, Mikey Garcia's the kind of celebrity boxer and celebrity name. So I'd guess he'd be 1-3, 1-4 on something like that. But you never know. I could have got that wrong. Yeah. So Irish Tom's not impressed, Paul. He's not buzzing for that fight. Do you think he's horse, or do you think he's about right?
No, I mean it's not a. I don't know. I think Price might have even been a better fucking opponent.
Steady.
My only hope is that the Molina that was able to cause Wilder a few problems can turn it into a bit of a fight. And like you guys say, Joshua's chin and his stamina are definitely suspect. When he was caught to the body in the Dillian White fight, he didn't like it. It was clear he didn't like it. He was blowing at certain points. And yeah, I guess that's really the only saving grace for it. But no, I mean I can't disagree. It's not Vladimir Klitschko. He isn't, is he?
Here, Paul, I give him less chance. I give Molina less chance of winning this than I did Sam Eggington. Let me put it that way.
Okie dokie. Well, we better hope that doesn't end in tears like your last prediction, eh, man?
I know, Jesus Christ.
Just quickly, interesting topic there. If you're watching live in the chat, let me know, who would you have rather seen, Molina or Price? Let's have a little poll. We got 104 people watching live. Let's have a little poll. Who would you rather see? Because I actually agree with Paul that I would rather see the David Price fight. Now, I'm not saying that Molina is a worse fighter than Price. What I am saying is that I think Price is possibly a more dangerous fighter than Molina. So let me just go to the chat. Mikey says Molina. The Wizard says Price. Mark says Price. iChampion says Price. Tetley says Price. Adam says Price. BC says Molina. Richie Price, JC Price, Peter Molina, Leon Price, David Price, Stephen Price, Yannick Hay, Jacob Price, Stuart Price, KM33 Price. John says both on the same night.
I'm with Haley. It's Matt Legg is the biggest.
Harley, not Haley. Give him some respect.
No, I call him Haley.
Price. Team Grove says Price. Matthew says Price. Smithy says Price.
Are these boys all on drugs? Are these boys on drugs?
Price.
No, but the thing is, Price has got knockout power, like real fucking power. I'm not sure Molina has. I mean, even the Adamek knockout. I mean, Adamek's a light heavyweight, and Adamek was out boxing. Was it the 10th round he knocked Adamek out in? And Adamek missed the count, but he did get back up. It's not like he was fucking out cold or anything. He's got a bit of power, but Price has definitely got more.
Shout out to Mr. Boxing Today, by the way. Huge fan of your channel. He says Molina. Let me know if you want to jump on the hangout, Mr. Boxing. It'd be good to get you on at some point. But yeah, Tom, it seems 75% of people are saying Price. And I'm guessing that's because of the power dynamic. Now, I personally would rather see Price because of that dynamic. What are you saying you'd rather see Molina, Tom?
Yeah, definitely. Like the way I look at it, right? Let's just look at it like this. Let's say we're the bookmaker and we're trying to say what's the over and under on the number of rounds David Price, Anthony Joshua is going to go?
Over and under. Over under, I'd say 3 rounds, maybe 2.5.
Paul?
Well, what's the question?
Like, what's if you were to pick a point where you expect the fight to, on average, to be finished by?
Same as Tom, 2 or 3.
And if we think Molina, what do we think?
Chat is saying 3, 5, 4, 3 inside a round.
That's for Price, is it? But
yeah.
What is it for Molina then?
Molina, I would say 6.
You see, and what do you think, Paul?
I think Molina could be just as quick, to be honest. I think the only difference between them is they're both wide open. I think the only difference is the power dynamic, and I think AJ is the level above both of them, and so I think he'd just knock either one of them out just as quick, to be honest.
There's a big, John Molina hasn't got the David Price's chin.
No, that's true.
And just the chin.
Factoring in there, mate, is I'm giving Price 3 rounds and Molina 6, but that's because I believe Price can stop Anthony Joshua, whereas I'm not sure Molina's going to stop him as easily.
Yeah, but maybe Price has got a, what are you going to say, 7 or 8% chance versus maybe a 5% chance, or so the chance of him stopping him, I think, I think which of the fights goes longest. I could see Molina taking him 7 and 8 rounds, or 10 rounds. He looks like a fairly tough guy. I can imagine him going distance. Like if you put David Price in with Wilder, he wouldn't get out of the fucking first round. Not a hope.
Ariola did knock Molina out in the first round. So
he did, yeah. No, I'm not saying that he's got a great chin or anything. I'm just saying, he's not David Price. David Price got the worst fucking chin in boxing history. And and that's what I'm basing it on. It'll probably be a similar kind of fight. Well, it won't be as. I can imagine it going the same distance as Dillian White or something like that. Now, Dillian and Jaman Brazil, they both have, or Breezeblock, they both have got good chins. And they went rounds. Now, whether Molina's chin is good enough or not, I don't know. But, oh, Lord, it doesn't get your pulses racing. And then we got Calify and Jose Burton versus Frank Buglioni to look forward to.
I think they'll have to put a better fight as the one under, the one right before AJ Molina. Now that it's Molina, I think they'd have to put a better fight on. Who it's going to be, I've no idea, but I think they'd have to put a better fight than Calify.
I really think it's going to be Chisora. I said that earlier. Potter said in the chat that it's going to be a standalone show. I'm not sure that's true because I don't think either Dillian White or Derek Chisora are ticket sellers. And I also don't think that they could market that fight as a pay-per-view fight. So I think the sensible place for that is on a
desert island with nobody there.
Is on a co-main event, which I could see happening.
On a co-main event,
I think they'll put that in because the November the 26th show, that is. That's only at Wembley Arena, so it's not going to be a huge show for them, is it?
No, but I thought you said co-main event. I thought you were going to say in a coma. That's the only place I'd like to watch that. It might wake me up.
Good news. I think. Have you guys seen Mr. Boxing Today's channel?
We do have indeed.
Yeah, he's going to join us in. I've just Mr. Boxing Today. I've just sent you a link. I've private messaged you to your YouTube account, mate. So let us know if there's any problems with that. Otherwise, it'd be a absolute pleasure to have you on. Definitely.
With Tom, failing that, you could get Hayley Marshall on. I hear she's very good.
Holly
Marshall.
Holly.
You and Nate.
Holly. Yeah, that's right. Holly Marshall.
Mate, shout out to Holly. He's a long time supporter of the channel. Definitely. Big fan. But yeah, you know, it's not good when you're talking about who would go more rounds, Price or Molina. You know, this isn't the indication of a fantastic fight, is it? When that's the sort of conversation we're having in advance. But yeah, I think Hughie Fury could have been a good opponent in hindsight.
Be a great opponent. Hugh would be great. Hughie'd spank him. We'd be betting on him, and it'd be a laugh. What do you call it? How much do you think Molina's getting paid for this shit show?
To be honest, if I were to have a guess, it would be purely that. It would be me picking a number out of the air and not basing it on very much at all. But I've got to imagine that one of the attractions of Molina as opponent was affordable. So, you know, I'm thinking, what, $500,000, something like that?
Jesus. Yeah, no, I doubt it's that, Tom, because Sterling has gone to shit.
You know, I'd say 200,000.
I'd say it's probably like £150,000, £200,000, £300,000, something like that.
Wow.
You know, yeah. So Mikey says Molina getting around 600k. Oh yeah, so he's only his opinion.
Is that $600k or $600k pounds, Mikey? And Hacker Times is $150k. New Age Boxing Analyst is $250. Team Gross is more than $200.
$250.
Sorry,
yeah.
$250,000, I should say.
It was $250 and an Oyster card.
An Oyster card to
get to the venue. Yeah. Oh no.
My champion says £300,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it the MEN? Is it the MEN, right?
Yeah. Manchester Arena. Yeah. So
the Oyster card is no fucking good to him there as well. That's less money you'll have after the $200.
So who's going?
I don't know.
It doesn't appeal, does it? The trip up to Manchester for that. Really. I'll tell you who else will be on the undercard. I can almost say this for certain. Is Scott Quigg.
Conor Ben will be on it.
Conor Ben, Scott Quigg. They may even wheel out Jamie. Oh no, Jamie McDonald's fighting in Monaco. I reckon Scott Quigg in a world title fight.
There's no world title fight they'll put on there. It'll be like a final eliminator or something.
Do you reckon?
Well, who's he going to fight? It'll be one of the featherweight world champions. Who are they?
Yeah, good point. I don't know who they are off the top of my head, but you're right. I don't think any of them are just available, are they? Like, you know.
Let me see here. I'm looking at the featherweight. Let me see. Featherweight. You've got Carl Frampton, Oscar Valdez. They're both lined up for fights. Cuellar, he's fighting this weekend or next weekend, isn't he? Gary Russell Jr. What fucking titles are these? WBC, IBF, and then Lee Selby. You might put Lee Selby into him. He wouldn't risk him. And then Lusanda Komanisi. He's the IBO. Probably
him then.
Tyson Fury, down according to BoxRec, is still the IBO titleist. And the WBO. But that's probably
he's not the WBO live, is he? You know, I think he's definitely vacated that belt because Parker versus Ruiz has been confirmed for it now.
What do you reckon? Eddie Hearn will get the checkbook out and bring Gary Russell Jr. over to fight. He'll pay him $2 million to come over and fight.
I very much doubt it. Very much. December's supposed to be a hard month for doing boxing as well, because obviously, you know, I guess it's a hard month for doing any type of event because Christmas is around the corner, isn't it? And you know, purse strings are quite tight usually when you're talking mid to late December. So yeah, it's probably not going to be the easiest sell. Molina, he's a nice guy. He interviews quite well, from what I heard. He did a good interview with Bay Lorick the other day, so shout out to Ingram. But he's not marketable, is he? You know, a guy like Jarrell Miller, that's marketable. You know, that's a fight that could sell. You could build that up with a press conference. You know, Molina, Joshua, that's going to be a press conference to send you to sleep, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's why I can see. I agree with you on the White Chisora on that card. I can really see him trying to put that on there as well, because that I think that, you know, that like that could sell the tickets like maybe more than the AJ fight. Like, you know, like if they start going at it and whatnot in the press conference and whatnot, you know, that's something that will bring you know, put asses on seats, I guess.
I don't know if you saw Chisora's interview with IFL TV, but I think he made it clear that he is asking for pretty mega money for that Dillian Whyte fight. And Chisora, I think, has a habit of expecting very, very big money. But the difficulty is Chisora on his own is not a pay-per-view fighter. And without being too harsh, Chisora doesn't really have a fan base. You know, if Tyson Fury or Anthony Joshua announce a date, they have fans who come out just to watch them fight. I mean, people would buy tickets to the Anthony Joshua fight a journeyman. I don't see Derek Chisora having a fan base. I don't see him having a pay-per-view follower base. So whether Eddie Hearn's going to want to stump up their money to pay for him, I don't know. But I think he's kind of going to have to make a fight of that magnitude, because this card, I've got to be honest, Joshua Molina, Kalia Fai, Frank Buglione, it's not screaming pay-per-view, is it?
No, but I mean, I agree with you on Chisora, but I think Chisora and White as a package, and Eddie Hearn just has a quick word in Dillian Whyte's ear and says, you know, like, you know, do your routine in the build up, gets IFL TV on it and everything. Because I mean, if you look at Joshua Dillian Whyte, that didn't look like a fight that was going to do what it did. These are people that do have the capabilities of sort of like really talking the fight up, and that's the way I think he'll probably go. Do you know what I mean?
What do you call it? What Potter in the chat said? Do you think Dillian will hit him with a big inflatable bottle at the presser? I say screw that. He's not going to hit him with a bottle. He's going to hit him with a jug, one of his own jugs.
Dillian's own jug. The fight talk also says, could he put Cruller on there? You know, that's a potential fight.
It'll be your man Luke Campbell, and Luke Campbell will be fighting like a final eliminator. That would be.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because Cruller Linares is going to rematch, isn't it? Alex Fraser says Selby versus TBA. Why do you think Selby's on the bill, Alex? Tell us that. I don't know if that's confirmed. I'm having a look, seeing what else has come through on the chat. Yeah, it's the Wizard says, do you actually think Eddie Hearn encourages fighters to act like imbeciles?
Yeah,
very possibly, yes. Tom, what's your take on that?
Yeah, it's something I don't have to try too hard.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Like there's only so much of this fake bad blood you can take from Dillian Whyte. At this rate, like Dillian, when he walks out of his house, he'll have to be looking over his shoulder, left, right, and centre. His neighbours will be fucking hitting him in the back of the head with a bag.
Yeah. He's got a lot of beef going on, Dillian Whyte, hasn't he? He's an entertaining character. Dillian Whyte Chisora then. Do we see that as more competitive? I know we've discussed it a little bit in the past, but does anyone give Chisora a start in that fight?
I do.
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah, I think it's a close enough fight. It's a 50-50, 60-40 type fight.
60-40. What about you, Paul?
Yeah, I give Chisora a chance. I mean, the only thing with Chisora is in the Pulev fight, he did look like he might be shot. If he's completely shot, then it's maybe 60-40, maybe even 70-30. But definitely, I don't really rate Dillian Whyte at all. He's looked awful recently, to be honest, and I just think it was the way he got under Joshua's skin that even allowed him to take Joshua around. I just think Joshua fought on emotion, and I think that was the only reason that fight went round. I don't rate I don't rate Dillian White at all, to be completely honest.
Yeah, and Paul, I'll just put in for a second. I can just see Mr. Boxing Today has joined. Hello, how you doing, Mr. Boxing?
Hey, what's up, fellas? How you doing?
All right, Mr. Boxing.
Really good.
Cool.
Great to have you join us tonight. I'm certainly a big fan of your channel, mate. I've been watching your channel for a good while, actually. So it's really good to speak to you. What's your take on this the Joshua Molina fight, then?
Well, first, let me say I appreciate that, and the feeling is mutual, and it's likewise with your channel too. As far as Molina, I think that I heard you guys discussing Molina and Price. I think Molina deserved a fight over Price just based on the fact that at least he's coming off a win against a notable fighter, Adamek. He was an old fighter, but if you watch that fight, it was a competitive fight. Adamek was the betting favorite, and the fight was in Poland. So Molina had to go over there and, you know, fight through some type of adversity and win a fight, whereas Price, he got sparked out against Thompson, Tepper. Now, I understand they had their drug issue, but he hasn't done anything notable since then. He beat some guys that he was expected to beat, gained some weight, and now he thinks he deserves his title shot. He also put out there that he knocked AJ out in sparring. But rather than that, though, he doesn't deserve the fight. I talked to Molina yesterday. He seems confident, seems ready to go. Doesn't mean he's going to win the fight, but I think it'll be competitive for as long as it lasts. It'd be a fight you would favor Anthony Joshua just based on the youth and just what you see with the eye test. But I definitely think Molina deserves the fight more than Price.
Interesting. Yeah, you make some good points. Stylistically, how do you think Joshua Molina is going to break down? What do you think the fight's actually going to look like on the night?
Well, Molina, from what I've seen his last few fights, he's been trying to use the left shoulder, use the shoulder, likes to fight out the shell, counter you with some punches. AJ is obviously going to come forward, use the jab, the right hand. He's a good combination puncher. If he comes forward, though, and he thinks he's going to walk through Molina, there's a chance there that he can get countered with a right hand that he doesn't see. Joshua's a big puncher, but he's going to be walking down another puncher. And whenever you do that, there's going to be some sort of danger there. So AJ is going to have to be aware of that. But I see AJ just coming forward, being the aggressor, and trying to get Molina out of there. And I see Molina fighting on his back foot and trying to counter to the best of his ability.
Interesting. And in general, like, I know obviously Joshua is becoming a bigger name in the States. I know he's fought on Showtime and got a deal with them. How sort of big a name is he over in the States at present amongst the boxing community?
When I converse with the American fans about him, he's right up there with Wilder. He's very popular, man. Now, when I go outside, I mean, a lot of people out of boxing, so everybody's not going to know who he is. Not like a Pacquiao-Mayweather effect, but as far as heavyweight fans, though, that I converse with, he's very popular, man. He's right up there at the top. To me, he's probably the most, as far as popularity, probably the most popular heavyweight, period, in the world.
Wow. Well, were the American fans quite into the idea of Joshua Klitschko when that was being debated?
Yes, people wanted that fight, but the bigger fight over here is Wilder versus Joshua. That's the one, if you put that type of video out on YouTube just speaking about it, it'll get you a lot of views. That's the big fight that people want for whatever reason. That's just, whenever I bring that idea up, it's bigger than the Parker, Povetkin, Pulev, any fighter you want to name. It's that fight right there. Ortiz is popular too, but it's something about the Joshua and Wilder that really gets the imagination of the fans.
Yeah, I guess they're both athletes. They're both Olympians. They're both, marketable, good talkers, good power. I couldn't pick a winner in that fight. They're both very talented guys, but they're both kind of vulnerable. And I think that's something that makes it quite interesting, is that they're, you can pick holes in both of them, but they both got such big strengths at the same time.
Yep, certainly, and I agree. I couldn't pick a winner now. I mean, you can probably favor either guy for certain different reasons, but it's a 50-50 fight, man. I don't want to lie and just pick a guy for the hell of it. It's really 50-50. I wouldn't know who will win that fight. I would think AJ would probably be favored by the betting odds. I think I've seen some betting odds on, I want to say Sky Sport Bets, or one of these websites, where they had betting odds for just different fights, even fights that wasn't even going to take place. And pretty much AJ is a favorite over everybody, according to the betting odds.
He's even a favorite over Muhammad Ali.
Might be. I think he might be.
Yeah, it's crazy. Paul, Tom, who would you pick in that fight then, Joshua Wilder?
I'd pick. Well, I mean, I agree. It's pretty much a 50-50 fight, but I think I'd probably pick AJ just on the sort of like just think Wilder can just be so wild and really open. I think he's got pretty poor balance. But then again, with AJ, there's so many unknowns as well. We don't really know how his stamina is. We don't really know how his chin is going to hold up against a really big puncher. So, you know, I'd be just like Mr. Boxing Today said, it would just be picking it for picking its sake. And I guess, yeah, just based on the eye test, I think probably AJ is a bit better, like a more well-rounded fighter.
Interesting stuff. Tom, what about yourself?
It's kind of like, it's kind of up to Joshua, I think. It's like, how bad is his chin versus, you know, is his chin okay? And then if his chin is okay, he probably is a better boxer. So he should be favoured if his chin is okay. And if his chin's no good, Wilder will clean him out. So it's one of those where you just don't know till it happens.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mr. Boxing Today, in terms of the punches in the heavyweight division, if we go purely in terms of punching power, Wilder, Joshua, those are two guys who are thrown into the mix as like the elite punchers of the division. How do you sort of rate them in terms of power, and who else would you throw into that mix of the hardest hitting guys in the sport?
Well, Wilder seems as if he has like this, you know, the one-hitter quitter effect. I mean, he's putting guys to sleep, man. The way he had Liakovic shaking on the ground was scary. The way he put Spilka fought a good fight that fight, but he put Spilka to sleep. And obviously Joshua, some of his stoppages, the ref kind of jumped in a little bit, but that doesn't, you know, take away that he has huge power. Ortiz is another guy. I mean, it's the heavyweight division, so everybody's going to pack a punch, you know, but Ortiz is another guy. Dillian White seems as if he can hit pretty hard. Jarrell Miller, although against limited opposition, but all these guys can pack a punch. Hell, even David Price can punch. I mean, they all can punch. It's just the fact of who can hold up, you know, who's the sturdiest as far as their chin and can they hold up to the punches. But pretty much, man, it's pretty – I'll say the top three is Wilder, Joshua, and Ortiz, but that's all the eye test. Eric Molina is another guy that can punch, but when I talk to him, he believes that Wilder and Joshua are the two hardest punchers. But Beckon can punch pretty hard too. Hey, yeah, see, you know what I mean? We can go, and then Vitaly Klitschko, you can't forget him with his right hand and his left hook. Not Vitaly, but Vladimir Klitschko, you can't forget about him. So there's a lot of hard punchers, man. I really can't really rate them.
Interesting stuff. And I know you're a man who's always got his finger on the pulse when it comes to heavyweight prospects. So I watch a lot of your videos when you're talking about, you know, some of the guys who are earlier on in their careers. Who at the minute are you really keeping your eye on as some of like the sort of elite level heavyweight prospects?
Issue Agano.
Really?
Dude, man. I mean, now this is the eye test. You know, when I see the 84-inch reach, some people say he's closer to 6'3", 6'4". Okay, let's just give him 6'4", because I've seen him listed as 6'5". But 6'4", 84-inch reach. I don't think Kevin Barry would keep him around if he was a scrub or he didn't see anything there. You know, he seems as if he can fight on the move a little bit more, and he's not just going to be this robotic, come forward, you know, Ivan Drago type of guy, where he's going to try to move a little bit and fight on the move. Jarrell Miller's another guy. And he's rated about all the sanctioning bodies. Adrian Granat is somebody that people tell me that he's too straight up. You know, he's this, he's that. And like I tell everybody has flaws, you know, but he does stand pretty straight up. But he showed me something in that France Real fight. I picked him to win, but I didn't think he'll do France Real like that. I mean, Helenius has a hard right hand, and he put Real down, but he couldn't finish him. And Granat just laid him out on his back. So Granat, Isuaganu, those are some of the guys that don't get talked about as much as a Jarrell Miller or Trevor Bryan, some of the American guys. But Granat and Isu right now, those are probably the two that stick out to me.
Interesting.
Junior Fa, there's a guy, Junior Fa in New Zealand, fought Joseph Parker a few times in the amateurs. I believe he's like 7 or 8-0 right now. He's a big guy that can fight on the move. He fought in the World Series of Boxing. He lost to Usyk, but everybody lost to Usyk in the World Series of Boxing. He's another guy because he's a big guy and he can fight on the move. And that, to me, stands out when you're a big guy that can fight on the move and you're not just a come-forward robot.
I have a question for you, Mr. Boxing. Whatever happened to your man, George Arias?
Oh, the Dominican kid. He, it's funny you mentioned him. I'm trying to get him on this week to talk about his career, but yeah, he has like that Frazier, Mike Tyson-esque type of style. I know he's still undefeated, so I guess he's just sitting out waiting for a fight. And there's another prospect too. Now you got me talking about prospects. Molina actually brought this guy up because he's going to be in his training camp. Cassius Chaney. He was in the Tyson Fury camp when Fury was preparing for Vladimir the first time. And I guess he's going to be working with Molina, but he's about 6'6", 240, very athletic.
Is he
main events need to, yeah, with the big afro. They need the main events need to figure out what they're going to do with him, man, because he's an athletic dude. He's been in a lot of training camps, and I hear nothing but great things about him. Sort of like Adrian Granat. He was in the Klitschko training camp. Rumor has it that he was giving Klitschko the business. That's just a rumor, and he was working with Povetkin. Same thing there. I heard he was giving Povetkin the business too in training. So
interesting stuff. Harley wanted to know in the chat, what's your thoughts on Oscar Rivas?
Oscar Rivas, man, if he can pass an eye exam, I mean, come to the States. I mean, he had some fights scheduled, Jared Washington, and it fell through. Amir Mansour, that one fell through. He just needs to pass an eye exam. But from what I see, he's a good little prospect. He's probably one of the better smaller, quote, smaller heavyweights, the guys that are, 6'1", 6'2", around there. He's probably one of the better guys, has the Olympic experience. He beat Kubrat Pullov in the Olympics. Good come forward fighter. I think he may have difficulty fighting guys that can keep him on the end of the jab. He fought a guy named Silveira Luis, I believe that's the guy's name. And that was a debatable fight. It was very debatable, man. The guy was keeping him on the end of the jab, using hand speed, switching angles. So, but I like Oscar Rivas, though. I think he's one of the better, smaller heavyweights.
Absolutely.
Can I just ask you something a second? What do you actually think of Jarrell Miller? On the I don't know if you've seen our podcast on a Wednesday night, but we're kind of a little bit like split on him. Like,
well, one, he can sell himself, and that doesn't really mean anything as far as, the grand scheme of things, but he can sell himself. I like that about him. I hate quiet fighters, man. You got to say something, especially in this age with social media. He can sell himself. He's very confident, and people, they take his confidence for being cocky, and it can be cocky, but he's been calling out Deontay Wilder when he was like 2-0. He's literally calling out all these guys. I think Wilder was 8-0 at the time he called them out. So he's been calling these guys out. Come from a fighting background. He was a K1 fighter. It's just one of those situations where you just have to see him in a competitive fight against somebody that's a better, than a 50-50 type of fight to see what he has, man. But he fought Fred Cassie. I think Fred Cassie just didn't want no more of that work. That's just being honest.
Yeah.
So we just got to see him in there with somebody. But, he looks good from the eye test. I know a lot of people say he's slow. Here we go again with the flaws. It's like, well, they all have flaws, man. So if you're going to just pick out flaws, then we might as well say no heavyweight is good because they all have flaws.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Did you see the rumours today about Salon Briggs versus Lucas Brown?
No, I haven't seen that rumor today, but I think that fight makes sense. They've been talking shit to each other back and forth on social media. So I then with this WBA, man, I mean, they really have to figure out what they're trying to do. I did see Ustinov, his manager, came out and said that he believes that Ustinov should fight Vladimir for the WBA title, which I don't agree with. But Brown versus Briggs, I think it's a decent fight. For right now and everything that's going on, I think it's a decent fight.
Right. Would you give Briggs a chance of winning that fight with his power?
Puncher's chance, yeah. I'll definitely give him a chance. And, to me, man, when big heavyweights like the 6'5" and up type guys, when they get older, to me, that's kind of like a fine wine, right? You get better with age. And, he never was a mover like that. So he can sit back and try to counter Brown. Briggs' last fight, he did show some decent body work, although it was against somebody he was supposed to beat. I do like his body work and the combinations, and he stays in the gym. So I'll give him a chance to win the fight.
Interesting stuff. And the other, I guess the other sort of major one at present is Parker versus Ruiz. You know, when we've been talking about prospects, I've always seen Parker as like that sort of A-grade prospect, where I've kind of seen Ruiz as a B-grade prospect. Obviously, there's the weight and conditioning issue. There's also the fact, I don't know if you remember back to that Tor Hamer fight, he just looked very open and very wide for me. A lot of people, I know Dwyer the other day is picking Ruiz to win that fight, Mr. Boxing. For you, is it a competitive fight? Is that one you're excited for?
Hell yeah, I'm excited for it. I said in a video that I think that that fight, if both guys show up in shape and ready to go, that's a type of fight that has a fight of the year type of feel to it based on the styles, because they both like to throw combinations. They're both mid-range fighters. I know they're trying to make AJ into this jabber type guy. He's not going to be Larry Holmes. That's just not, I just don't see that with Parker. Now, he has a jab, but I don't think he has a type of jab where he's going to win 7 rounds just using his jab. I think his bread and butter is mid-range. So is Ruiz. Ruiz, it comes down to conditioning. If he can hold up for 12 rounds, fighting, you know, from the beginning of the round to the end of the round, putting pressure on Parker and applying it, he could possibly pull off that win. Parker, I'll give him the advantage in power, and I think once they start to exchange mid-range, Parker's power may overcome anything that Ruiz is doing. But definitely based on styles, man, this is a fight of the year type of fight. Kind of like Povetkin and Stavern almost, because just based on the styles. Mid-range fighters, they don't like to go backwards. Usually that spells excitement.
Definitely. It's 2 big guys with very, very fast hands, I guess, there, definitely. Yeah, another fight we're talking about is Chisora versus Dillian White, which I guess is a level below in terms, you know, it's not a world title fight. It's not 2 elite heavyweights. But just before you came on, we were discussing it. I make Dillian White quite a big favourite here. The other 2 guys were kind of a bit unsure and saw it as more of a 50-50. Where do you stand on that one?
Based on what I've seen, I would have to favor Chisora. Now, usually he comes up short when he steps up to these big fights, but who's to say that if you put Dillian White in those same situations, he wouldn't come up short? And last time I checked, when he was put in a big situation, he came up short. Chisora just has the experience. In his last fight against Pulev, I was conversing with some fans. They thought that could have possibly been a draw. I thought Pulev won it, but, you know, I'm not sure how Dillian White would do in that fight. Now, I know styles make fights and, you know, the triangle theory thing, but I just will have to favor Chisora with the experience. I think his chin is just as tough. I think one shot for one shot, he may have as much power as Dillian White. His defense may be a little bit better for the things that he tries to do. But Dillian White did show me in the last fight that he can, you know, fight off his back foot a little bit. But that's because he was able to control guys like Allen and those type of guys. But Chisora is a tougher guy to try to control with the jab. And I'm not sure Dillian can control him with the jab. It may just turn into a slugfest, and whoever lands first is going to win. But I would favor Chisora, maybe 55-45.
It's really interesting, actually. See, I thought public perception would be that Dillian White would be a strong favourite in that fight. I thought a lot of guys would kind of be of the mindset that he's younger, a lot fresher, whereas Chisora's obviously got a lot of miles on the clock. But I'm quite surprised. You know, the reaction tonight has been that that's a very, very competitive fight, and you know, obviously that's always what we want to see. I'm going to throw it open.
BG, it's just if Chisora is going to come motivated. That's the thing with him too, because sometimes I'll look at the weights for his fight. He's at 265 when he doesn't care. Then when it's a fight that he cares, he comes in at 240. You know, so it's just it's just a mental thing with Chisora, I believe.
I can see that. Yeah, I can see that. If he comes real, I remember when he was fighting like Edmund Gerber, Kevin Johnson, Malik Scott. You know, those kind of guys. He was turning up. You know, like I'm guessing I'm not good on American numbers, but I'm thinking he would have turned up 245, 250, that sort of level. And he looked like a much better fighter than we've seen him at other times in his career. Yeah, he he's one of those guys where he can be so slow on his feet and so plodding if he comes in a stone or two too heavy. And with his style, that makes all the difference for me. I'll throw it open to the chat. Paul, if you've got any questions for Mr. Boxing or anything else just to throw out there, go for it. And otherwise, if anyone's got any questions in the chat you want me to ask either of the guys, either for Paul or Mr. Boxing, let us know, and I'll fire the questions over to them.
Just to let you know, I've got to go in about 10 minutes, so I'm all right to hang around for about another 10.
Yeah, no worries, Paul. We won't keep it going for too much longer because I've got to shoot off in a moment. Mr. Boxing, you good for another 5-10 minutes?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Good stuff. So I'm just looking into the chat. BDB says, would be interested to hear Mr. Boxing's thoughts on Nathan Gorman and Darmani Rock.
Okay, Nathan Gorman, that's the Ricky Hatton protege. Fast hands. Would like his conditioning to be a little bit better, although I'm not a huge, you need to look like a bodybuilder to be competitive. But I like his hand speed. I like the combinations. I like the body work. I like the left hook. He's young. I mean, he's really young. I think he's like 19, 20. So
yeah,
he's even younger than Huey Fury, man. So I mean, and that's Huey Fury's another prospect too that I didn't bring up. But yeah, I like Nathan Gorman. He has fast hands. Darmani Rock. Now, he was supposed to make it to the Olympics for the U.S. He ended up getting derailed in the Olympic trials, but he has the size. He's another young guy. I think he's like 19 or 20, signed with Rock Nation. He has the size. He's about 6'4". His weight, really don't like what I see as far as his body. And I think his, when he gets his, as we say, grown man strength and he starts to tone up a little bit, I think that will come with age. But the hand speed, the power, the kid's from Philadelphia. I mean, I like what I see, man. Just want to see him grow, get in better condition, and just step up, and we'll see where he goes from there.
Absolutely, yeah. It could be one to follow, certainly. Two other names people have thrown out there. Con Sean, I believe I saw you do a video on him recently, actually, and also Gerald Washington. Where do you kind of sit on those two guys?
I didn't hear I heard you say Gerald Washington, but who's the other guy?
Con Sean. He's an Irish heavyweight. He's working with the Furies. Yeah,
Con Sheehan. Yeah, he was actually with Virgil Hunter for a while, and then he went over to the UK.
Oh, wow.
Same thing with him, man. I like with a lot of these guys. I like what I see. That's why I do videos about them. It's just about how are they going to progress. But I like what I see. He has the skills, has good fundamentals. I like his jab. He has size. Gerald Washington. He is the guy. When I watch him. Now, when you watch him on TV, you think like, man, why doesn't he just sit down on his punches a little bit more, throw that right hand, and obviously I'm being a couch trainer when I'm doing that. But it's just, you see a guy that's 6'6", 250, 260 pounds. You want him to be a little bit more aggressive. But from what I've heard from him, he's looked up to guys like, what was the guy in the 70s? He told me he tries to pattern his game after, I forgot the guy's name, but, he likes to box and move and use his jab, which is cool. I just want him to be a little bit more aggressive. Like in the Amir Mansour fight, I thought if he would have just sat down on some right hands, been a little bit more aggressive, try to back Amir Mansour up, maybe it wouldn't have been a draw. But I would just like to see him be more aggressive, although he would disagree. And he's told me that since he took up boxing late, he's still trying to, learn the game as he goes, which I respect that. But when you see a guy that big, that strong, you want him to be a little bit more aggressive. Just my opinion.
Interesting stuff. Mr. Boxing.
Jimmy Ellis, that's the guy who we said he patterns his game after. No, Jimmy Young, I'm sorry. Young.
Jimmy Young. They're firing questions at you. I hope you don't mind if I ask you a few more. You're a popular man tonight.
It's fine. It's fine.
Okay, so the next one I've got is what does Mr. Boxing think of Wilder Povetkin? Is it actually going to go ahead?
Hold on, BG, I lost you. What did you say?
What do you think of Wilder and Povetkin? Do you think it will actually go ahead a second time?
Well, hopefully it does, man. I know are you still there?
Yep, yeah.
Okay, it's like my screen is like showing different shit. Okay, hold on. I'll just keep talking. with that, man, hopefully it does, man. But I keep hearing after the WBC, they're going to do like investigate a little bit more. Did you hear that? That they're supposed to investigate a little bit more after the fight with Stavern?
Yeah, yeah.
So
Definitely.
I really don't know, man. I can't even give you an answer on that. Hopefully it does go down. You know, being that he beat Stavern, but hopefully that fight does go down. Did they want to know who I think will win that fight?
Yeah.
I did a prediction video and I said Wilder, and it's a close one. But I think Povetkin has trouble with jabs, and I'm not sitting here claiming that Wilder has a Muhammad Ali, Sonny Liston type of jab, but he does have a good jab. It's up there with Pulev and Klitsch. This version of Vladimir, I think his jab is up there with those guys just because of the length, and he can create space. And with Povetkin, if you can create space on him and not let him get the mid range on you and throw those overhand rights and uppercuts, and that's where he likes to be, right there, right on your chest, fighting like that. So if Wilder can keep him off him with the jab, hold him when he needs to, land a right hand to keep him honest when he needs to, he can probably implement what he did against Stavern and possibly pull off a decision. But I'll favor him in that fight. But man, if he tries to fight at a close range, Povetkin may do some damage.
It's a great fight now. I think it's such a 50-50 fight. I'd love to see that one. It's very
I'll probably have, that's another one where I have Wilder 55-45 based on the styles. Wilder sometimes, he leaves that chin exposed, man. He likes to pull back with his chin in the air, but he's athletic enough to get away with it to a certain degree, but he gets against the rope sometimes. He likes to just throw up the high guard, but he showed to have a tough chin. Duhaupas got up on him a little bit. Molina rocked him. He stayed upright. He did stay upright. So I'll favor him, just a little bit younger, and just the dynamics, just the size difference, the reach. Povetkin, I don't think that Wilder can pretty much implement exactly everything that Vladimir did, because Vladimir was using a lot of holding tactics and pushing down on his, pushing his weight down on Povetkin. He was like ragdolling him. And I'm not sure if Wilder is as strong as Vladimir as far as in the clinch and wrapping guys up. But I think he's athletic enough, and I think his jab is good enough to squeak by Povetkin. I think his right hand is good enough to keep him honest too.
Certainly. Yeah, it's a real clash of styles, which always makes it interesting in that kind of fight, definitely. Okay, the next question was, what do you think the likely outcome of the whole WBA situation will be?
Oh, man. Your guess, whoever asked that question, your guess is as good as mine. I really have no clue, man. 1 minute, it's supposed to get a fight, and then you have Ustinov was supposed to fight Ortiz. Then from what I've heard from the Ortiz side is Ustinov didn't want to take a VADA test. Now Ustinov believes he should move on and fight Klitschko anyways, which I think is BS. And then you have the other side of the tournament, Frez Akindo. Like, where's that guy at? The last time I heard of Frez, he was injured. He fought Chigaev in a very close fight that could have went either way. I'll give him that. And then he got injured. Now, I haven't seen him since then. And I really don't know what's going to happen with this WBA tournament, man. I have no clue. No clue at all.
Crazy situation, isn't it? Paul, what do you think will be if you had to make a prediction, how do you think the WBA situation will play out, mate?
Sorry, I was responding to Mike in the chat. What was the question?
How would your guess be that the whole WBA situation will play out in the end?
Right, yeah. It's hard to say, isn't it? It's like it seems to be changing so like regularly. No idea, mate. No idea. No, I've got no idea. It's one of them things that it's kind of like there's so many things in the mix that it's kind of hard. And with these governing bodies, who the fuck knows what they're going to do half the time anyway? They throw so many curveballs. It's hard to know. Do you know what I mean?
I think we're all in the same boat there. It's kind of like, your guess is as good as ours, really. It's kind of, all right, final question before we wrap it up, guys. And this is one I think I saw two people ask earlier. Who are we picking if Jarrell Miller and White? Paul, I'll start with you.
I'd pick Jarrell Miller. I don't rate Dillian White at all. I don't rate him. I'd pick Jarrell Miller. I do think Jarrell Miller is a bit slow, but Dillian White is also slow. I think Jarrell Miller just has a bit more in the way of attributes than Dillian White for my money.
Do you know what? To be honest, I'd be inclined to agree with you there, Paul. I just think Jarrell Miller might have a bit more, but they're similar in several ways, I think. Mr. Boxing, what about you? Who would you take in that one?
I would probably favor Miller in that fight. Both guys seem to have power. I just think it's just now all this is according just to the eye test, but it just seems like Miller possibly may have the better chin. And I think if they get into a slugfest, I think Miller will win out. And I think it'd be extremely tough for Dillian White to knock a big guy out like that. I mean, Miller is pushing 300 pounds. He stays in the gym. And so does Dillian White. I'm not going to slight him, but I'll probably just favor Miller. And I think his boxing ability is underrated. I think his footwork is underrated. I post a lot of training clips. I'm getting kind of off the subject, but I post a lot of training clips of fighters on my page just to show the guys what these guys look like in the gym, what they're working on, what their hand speed, footwork, combination punching all look like when they're in the gym. Now, I know on fight night it could be a different story, but just by looking at both guys and what they bring, their attributes, I think Miller has a lot more in his toolbox than Dillian White has. But I'll probably favor Miller 60-40, but I just see Miller just has more in his toolbox than Dillian White has on defense and on offense.
Interesting. Yeah, I think you're probably spot on there. I think Dillian White's got he's a good prospect, but I think he's got a ceiling on him. Whereas I think Jarrell Miller, he's a real open book in terms of how far he could go, I reckon. It's kind of early days, really. But yeah, guys, I've really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed chatting to you both. Paul, thanks for coming on from the start and staying the course, mate, as always. Mr. Boxing Today, it's been brilliant having you on the channel, mate. It's good to finally speak to you, and it'd be great to have you on again or come on to yours one day.
Likewise, man. I totally appreciate it, man.
Yeah, brilliant. Cool, man. Nice to chat to you as well, man. Yeah.
No doubt, man. I appreciate that.
Cool. Cheers, Paul. Well, we'll be back with Paul next Wednesday for the podcast. Please check out Mr. Boxing Today's channel, of course. And if you've enjoyed this, take the time to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel. But I'll wrap it up there, guys. I hope everyone has a good evening or good afternoon if you're in the States. And yeah, thanks very much for watching, everyone. Appreciate it. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys.